Hello, 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 hello. Oh, hello, hello, hello. Nope, that's not working, huh?
Penny Wrenn Media. Ba bum ba bum bum ba bum
Hello,
bum
hello,
ba bum.
hello.
Penny Wrenn Media. Say tick
Hello,
tick
hello,
tick ba
hello.
bum ba ba bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sunny nani nani here. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum.
Hello,
Penny
hello,
Wrenn
hello, hello,
Media.
hello.
Say tick
Hello,
tick tick
hello.
ba bum ba bum bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sunny nani nani here. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sang the tick tick ba bum ba bum bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sami nami nami here. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn
Hello,
Media.
hello, hello,
Penny
hello,
Wrenn
hello,
Media.
hello, hello, hello.
Penny Wrenn Media. Ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sang the tick tick ba bum ba bum bum.
Hello,
Penny
hello,
Wrenn
hello, hello, hello.
Media. Sami Media. Ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sang the tick tick ba bum ba bum bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sami nina. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Media. Sunny nami nami here. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media.
Hello, hello. All right. There's a lag, isn't absolutely still a lag. Let's see if we get it to fix. It is here on YouTube channel. It's great to stay on. Go at 100 is for my end. My last news as the so all because oh I was introduced with of podcast and I did this watching the last bash of news without slang and copying them through. So I think I might still need to invest better guessing. So I have them. I know for have a companion podcast. When we have a podcast basically where we think they might be doing this 20 minutes later time. So I've been thinking about because I using it the dribble in our first podcast, the times the daily podcast. Now in that follow Candace. I just touch my mom's my touch Hawk Rock a little bit too deep for me. It's kind of like people watch Gilmore Girls or people who watched The Wing. Like I really I'll include. Oh, I've flickr shows and I don't look at Rachel Maddow so much. I only really view I'm trying to comparable person on the to me things in the Tuckers and Owens. Like those are my facts. Don't love I don't love opinion already and it already lists APR feel a slant into the slant and setup. And because I feel like slant, I don't mind the personality driven content of like Tulsa. I do love High Learning had a podcast with Van Jones and Rachel was the first black bachelorette. You might love that. I'll say in my read what the repeat, of course, is fine because yelling as recline is weird. It's a fine forward the thing. Anyway, today I've been the mic of mid in America has really burdened, especially when I think about my posture, point of view in midlife. I am not so naive as to believe that I will lead a 100 lifespan. It's not even naive and say that that's the goal. I don't need life that I'm able to take care of. I hope they have friends and family. Like there are that I do longer than, but I think it's still quantifiably to person from 100 lifespan, especially, and I think it's useful, especially if you consider that the boomers who are peoples, many of them, they're still well into their 70s. Now, I'm not here to debate whether or not but what I think the capabilities design have and time with that is self-evident to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that there is, as long as you live it, right? As long as you live, and living for most folks, I mean, need money and likely you need to use your income. I mean, Boomer Generation X is going to, I believe that is the standard, work 75-ish that expect from it. I think that's good or bad. I'm not saying that I recommend it, but I'm saying that we have enough evidence now where able plausible that life is sneak on us. And much I at their vantage point, anyone between the ages of let's 40 and 55 now has, because we in phase and frame in a country that's clearly, like, you might even say lost its mind. And when I say that, I'm not a Trump commentary, this isn't a Democrat commentary. This is literally identity pieces on so many competing identities that are so America. Really, only identity that share is that nation care being from a nation. And so many of our arguments are being into question the actual non-arbitrary rules. If it doesn't, we don't want to inheritance and like I believe that there will talk about that don't get you so caught in I'm identity to the that so many lines drawn. There's not a shared consciousness of the midlife America for me is it's because what a lot of was 90. I think we a generation in my age, a data point that we recollect just off the top of our head anecdotally, where 50 as a kind of project is so, and we have enough vim and vigor, if you will, to reimagine in the next 50. One of the reasons that a lot of ideas as we want to want for America, and just want to want America. So America 255 is on hashtag 500 because there's. While not limited time on lifespan of America, I think Edison is revenging from is also considering the country from 500. That type of entity, individual, human. To me, I dream or doer. I think that it's a way of seeing negating the world. Like some that you're still negating, that are still percolating, still in the world. You usually are working from a mission, not working from a passion project, hustle. You be involved. Maybe you're one of who was all school boards that was happening. There are people that literally seeing people. The laborers are few laborers, and we've all been left for pardon canes and gold. And I would think, why delvers in the midst of modifying our culture and part of love station I with my mother because of the past St. Timothy's Church in the Roxman area. It's such my husband, preacher Meg Mazer is just so did, and I've never not experienced so where don't feel true action, and I do every that is it. I pair with this one be me that to be not to called attention, right? There's always question. I know if part of her decree or that's the season in my, but that said, I really love Wrenn and I love the church. I love it as a family, and I love thoughtful that it's share the light and their hospitality and how they hold space for a lot of different backgrounds. Talk about religion, worship, potters, and the who doesn't know how to get things happen. I'm still in the hair. There is vibe. There's just a whole. I love it. And anyway, their fellowship after a service, and a couple days ago, I found myself talking about its YouTube channel because I have been a live stream more to publish more and was saying about different milestone. If he advised the channel, he found his audience, and he mentioned about because it's a channel. In fact, they shared topic this of that was they letters, and that was said their father, and again, 500 me in this life mindset, in this things also selling what I saw is just really easy. in the middle of actions for ourselves, what we want for ourselves, loophole to line really that the servant actions, even if you take time to now, and just to a family that had physical run of something that all did that it had just so it was like perfect, which explore these themes of exploration and cultural inheritance. That is the one that we right is how to feel inherent version of right you know, and what about when we talk about on those terms, we elaborate on identity human as and not the black person or our sexuality or part of the country we live in, you know, not employed. You know, you got Chris time when it clearly is not called and the machine said, and seeing done the advocating machine period is at to then bring the gospel race and that is higher because you know so coming together to talk with Boar, the hand up there, a bigger, someone so thoughtful about Christ that occur because American treaty that was my mind is such in our country that they give to like just and let's hear in.
Media,
if the question is too esoteric, or if I'm, reaching, don't feel like
No,
pressure.
I love the idea of collecting intangibles. We collect memories. We collect thoughts. We have, I mean, there are. I've lamented the fact that, when I was growing up, we didn't have cable. It was really just the four big network channels, and so there were more shared experiences insofar as everyone tended to watch the same shows or see the same movies, and you could have and carry on conversations about that. But now it's like everything has been so diversified to the point where they're really, aside from like the Super Bowl, that's like sort of the one last thing that sort of brings all Americans together, I feel like. And like you can't assume that anyone else has seen whatever show you're talking about, because if the algorithm is now so tailored towards everyone's individualized, yes, which is great on one hand, and because you can get that fine detail, you can find the exact kind of content or shows or whatever you're into. In my case, baseball cards. But again, that's going to be a tailored experience just for me and for my own personal, desires and preferences. And it's not one of those experiences that would be shared by many.
Right, but there's still a large following and leadership, if you will, or an influence of baseball cards on YouTube. So you know what I mean.
Yep.
And we talked about you having to find a following, or a following finding you.
Sure. Right, and in the space now, numbers are all relative. If your goal is to try to build the largest community the quickest, I would say there are certain types of communities you could begin with. For example, Minecraft YouTubers, for example. I know that you can get very big very quickly there in that domain. There's a big audience, a big following there. Or something else big like that. As a math teacher, I could create a math channel, for example, that would offer math help, or create my own sort of like mini Khan Academy. I mean, it's been there. It's already done before. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but something like that has a wide reach where potentially anybody, any either student or anyone in a math course from the age of 5 to 25, could find something there that really casts the net pretty wide, to try and capture that. And so in a way, developing a channel with such a niche area of baseball card collecting, it's kind of limiting, especially when you consider that it could be a wider net in all of sports cards, not just baseball, but I could widen it to football, basketball, hockey, and then especially the big ones are Pokemon and TCG, trading card games like Magic the Gathering, One Piece, right? And she's into Pokemon, right? Exactly. And so, but Pokemon is the largest by far of all of the trading card games, and so.
Inherited the collector identity from you?
Very possible, yeah. Very possible.
And how would that have been passed down?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I can give specifics, but I certainly got it from my father, and he certainly got it from his mother, and so we were a whole. Oh yeah.
Tell me about this lady.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me about the collector.
Well, my grandma Mazer, she's no longer with us, but she was a collector to the point of borderline hoarder, not quite hoarder, not quite to that extent, but she would collect all kinds of knickknacks and little crystal sculptures and shoes, and I mean I'm talking hundreds of boxes of shoes that were in like.
Did she pass away in the last couple of years?
No,
Oh,
that was
okay.
the other one.
Got it.
She was,
Okay, got it.
It's probably been about 25 years, I think, since she's
Okay.
been,
Go ahead.
has
Knickknacks,
passed. But
shoes.
oh yeah, all sorts of that kind of thing. And I think a lot of that for her, I think, was actually a result of the Great Depression, because she grew up in the Great Depression, and there was always a desire to not to waste anything and to save it because you might need it later. And so in her basement, she would have, for example, stacked up like egg cartons, like empty egg cartons, like stacked, like boxes full of them. She would have paper towel tubes, boxes full, neatly arranged.
Did she like crafts? Was she gonna build? What was she?
Not
gonna make with
really,
them?
but she
Wow.
didn't want to get rid of them because they could maybe be used.
I'm thinking like that would have been a.
And she was pretty well to do. I mean, like
Yeah,
she didn't like, she didn't like need.
Yeah.
She wasn't like short on cash necessarily.
Right, yeah.
But this was I think this was just sort of a, I don't know, call it a mental quirk or something that was developed from that time of need that she had in her past, and she had sort of carried that with her
When
throughout.
she passed away, what
throughout
happened
life.
with her collections?
Oh, mostly got donated, I think, for art supplies for schools and things like that. But yeah, for crafts, and because it was perfect. I mean, you couldn't.
Yeah, that's what.
For big groups of students and schools, you couldn't ask for better.
Do you remember Do you remember what the recipients were like when they got them? What age would you have been at the time?
Oh gosh, I was a teenager. I wasn't with them when they made those donations. I had just heard about what had happened to those, and it made sense because what else are you gonna do with that? I mean, your choices are to throw them away, recycle them, or donate them if you can find someone who wants it, and so that's what they did.
How do people account for their card collections and their estate planning?
That's a good question.
Or how has
It's
your
one of the
father-
things. Yeah, well, I've heard it said that we spend the first 60 years of our lives accumulating and gathering things, and the last 20 years getting rid of it all. So I think my father, really since COVID era, has been sort of getting rid of and has been actually on the selling side of dismantling. He had, at one point in time, I feel pretty confident in saying he had the largest collection of Barry Bonds cards in the world.
Why
but-
Barry Bonds?
It's a good question, and I think he picked the right guy, honestly. And we grew up in Pittsburgh, and so at that time in the 80s, Barry Bonds came up as a Pittsburgh Pirate. He was a player, so he was a local hometown guy, who had my dad just had never seen a player play like that before, who had
Barry Bonds playing
combination.
Maverick a bit, or no? What am I thinking?
No,
of
he
Barry
he
Bonds?
was so
I know he was black. That's
he
all I
started
know.
he started on the Pirates, and he played from like 86, 87 to about 92 with the Pirates, and then 93 season he started with the Giants, and he stayed with the San Francisco Giants throughout the rest of his career, which was through 2007. I think was his last year. But yeah, he had a blend of power and speed and ability to field. I mean, he really had all the tools that you look for in a player, and he was one of the most dangerous hitters who'd ever played. And so my dad was just kind of inspired to start collecting. Really, with my brother was also into buying sort of these like Panini stickers and filling out the sticker album, and you have a little place you would put, they would have numbers, and you'd put all the players by team in their spots in these sticker books from the 80s. And that turned into baseball cards too. And then eventually we got our hands on one of those price guides that were there, and my dad's jaw hit the floor when he saw what some of these Mickey Mantle cards were worth, that he remembered putting in the spokes of his bike growing up, and he was destroying these things, and he's realizing that they're worth hundreds and thousands of dollars. That was just what you did. It was to make your bike sound like a motorcycle, because they would flap, they'd whack into each other and make it sound like an engine, like.
Wow.
So,
Baseball
yeah.
cards were the input for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Or you'd flip them, or you'd basically just destroy these things. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right,
Which
destroy them for
and-
pleasure.
or everyone's mother had a box in the attic that they threw away when they were cleaning out, and because they threw them all away, the ones that remain, there weren't many left that remained, which is part of what caused that rarity, and there aren't as many of them, and especially not ones left in particularly nice condition. And so all that plays into why a lot of them do have value, and people are, they're harder to find now than they were.
Does your dad ask you and your brother which cards you want, though? Has he, just before he sells them, or is he just kind of working his own operation?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think all three of us, because my brother collects, he has a YouTube channel as well, and so do I, and so does my
And
dad.
what's your channel's name?
Hey, you okay?
Sure. So my channel is called High
Oh,
Pop
they
Professor.
canceled it.
Hi. Is
Yep.
something wrong?
So HIGH, then POP, and then
POP.
professor.
Professor.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
And I would say that all three of us collect differently. So
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm
there-
sorry.
So I mean, I would think
was
of a
live
three-circle
streaming, I
Venn
was in the middle of
diagram
some-
where there's a
whatever.
little overlap in the middle, but
I was
our
able to come
collections
up
are
and-
pretty unique in
Oh,
what we
thank you.
look
I
for
forgot
and
about
what we're
that, too.
trying
Oh,
to
can you
sort
bring
of
me my egg? Do you
figure
mind?
out piece and how to curate our own collections
Where's
because
the overlap?
good probably 1990s basically.
That's the theme of overlap.
About what pieces to add and how to curate our own collections because
Overlap.
good probably 1990s baseball generally.
And that's the theme of the overlap, or is the actual good asset, tangible asset, is that the same too? Is it like a card?
It could be.
Okay.
It could
Okay.
be, or cards from certain sets, cards of certain players. That certainly could belong in all of our collections.
Give me an example of two.
So one card that we all could own could be a 1993 Topps Finest Barry Bonds Refractor.
I have no idea what any of those words mean, but I love how specific it is. And each of you could, but does each of you own it?
So my dad actually had 3 of them at one point in time. I currently have one of those 3.
That were his?
Yes.
Does your brother have one of the 3?
He has one from 1995, Barry Bonds Finest
That he
Refractor.
retrieved on his own, or that you got from your dad?
I think that was from our dad also.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure.
So are
Different
they
year.
adjacent enough to still qualify in that same overlap
Oh yeah,
area of
totally.
the Venn
Yeah,
diagram?
yeah.
Well,
Not,
I hope you would.
not 95 is. Oh yeah, I'm not. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm keeping that one. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Can you make a pact though after today to make sure that you?
It's one of the best cards I have in my whole collection. So I wouldn't be looking.
Sell it.
No, it has a lot of value and it's gotten more valuable as of late. There was a big price spike for a lot of collectible cardboard. Sports cards especially had a massive spike during COVID, and which really a lot of times my dad really didn't look at a lot of the value of that stuff until my brother was kind of letting him know, like, hey, you know that some of these cards you have sent in these 9-pocket page, these binder page cards, like he showed him on eBay, like, you see what the last sale of this card was? And my dad's jaw hit the floor. It was just like, there's no way. How is that possible? And I guess a combination of COVID shutting everything down, people getting extra checks from the government and you're sitting at home and you can't do much else. Well, time to dig out the baseball cards and like, hey, let's see what it's been 20 years maybe since we were back, doing this. Let's get back into it. And everyone's doing this at once and created a crazy demand for it.
That's an
And people got in,
Right.
and so we're actually in the middle of another spike right now. So things eased off a little in 2022, 2023, but really since 2025, last year, and currently right now, we're kind of in another all-time high, sort of. On
to now.
honestly, it's Pokemon that's leading the charge, and anyone who
Go ahead.
anyone who says otherwise is kind of just deceiving themselves. But that's the biggie. I think part of the reason, I mean,
Pokemon become popular again?
it's a good question. I think it's hit critical mass. It's been I mean, Pokemon has been a thing since the mid to late 90s. I mean, it started with the games, Game Boy games in 96 or 95, somewhere around there. But even the trading, oh yeah, all sorts of stuff, yeah.
Whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Merchandising and Pokemon Go, where you're trying to that was the app in the late 2010s that became a big thing. Yeah. But the games have always been popular. The cartoon that was out in the late 90s was also popular. I mean, that was out in 95, 96 also. So what's interesting about that is that it's been big enough for long enough where now all of the people that were into it as kids are nostalgic for it. So they're getting back into it, but they're also raising their own kids up with it too. So you now have multi-generational component to it, and then compounding that fact. The one huge advantage that Pokemon has over sports cards is that Pokemon is global. you have a global network, and I mean, you have people all over the world that are wanting these things. Whereas, baseball, basically, you just have people in this country, and maybe Canada, but like for the most part, baseball cards, your primary market is going to be just the United States, pretty much. A little small exceptions outside of that, but Pokemon's completely global. I mean, all over.
And what do you?
Yeah.
What's worth keeping and what's worth passing on as a tangible card?
Absolutely.
That you, especially if your children don't end up collecting
Right.
baseball cards, how will you evaluate that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would imagine that, what my dad's doing right now is kind of a blueprint for how I see myself sort of conducting that and navigating that
Talk us through
at that sort of stage in life. And so he's always been big into eBay, both buying and selling. And so it makes sense, if you're going to take a collection, if you're going to consign that to an auction house, or if you're going to do something like that, they're going to take a pretty big cut of that as well. You're going to leave some money on the table just for convenience. And it's the actual selling of the collection has become his hobby. It's become his retirement job, in a way.
Learning somehow and how he's like if he's selling things individually, if he's selling things
Well,
collectively.
the idea is to liquidate it, but he wants to do it on his own terms.
So again, but what's worth not liquidating for him? Do you think that there's going to be anything that he doesn't liquidate? Are you going to find any, I don't know, treasure, so to speak, that he just wanted you to have or your brother to have that maybe you didn't even know that he did?
So the way he started downsizing and the way he started, the ultimate goal is, I think, to sell everything.
Everything.
I think.
You never asked. We don't
Well,
know for sure.
don't know for sure.
Got
I suspect that's the goal ultimately, with maybe two exceptions. So he started by sort of selling off some of the bigger cards he had, the ones that were a little more had more value to them.
And
So
when you say have more value, what's the range that we're talking there?
I mean, they kind of go all over.
5,000 a card, 20,000 a card.
Depends on the card.
What's the highest you've seen any card go for in your dad's collection?
He sold the 2005 Topps Superfractor Autograph 1/1 to a collector who actually flew out from Arizona to go pick it up in person. That one card was $30,000.
That's wonderful. Okay.
And I think he also sold a bunch of other cards to him as well. It was six figures. It was, all said and done. And this one transaction was massive.
Wow.
So, but that was the single biggest card though. Yeah.
I love this. Do you think that this is part of a wealth inheritance plan that he has for you guys or for your
I have no idea. I really have no idea if this was something that accidentally became a retirement account all of a sudden. I know he'd been working on this and curating and editing. Now I have to say he was a completionist collector.
What's a completionist collector?
So the idea was when he started collecting, his goal was he wanted to get one of every Barry Bonds card ever made, which that wasn't too hard to do in the 80s and early 90s. That was very doable but what happened was we had exponential growth. And so there may have only been, I don't know, maybe, 4 cards released from his in 86. 87, he might have had 12 cards that were all different. And then, but by the time you got to 1990 or 91, maybe it was like, 80 to 100 cards every year were being released. But by the time you got to the mid 90s and late 90s, it started getting up into the thousands
So
every year.
You can't collect that.
Well, what really
value.
what really killed the dream was in 1990. So what they started to do was, the reason why my channel is called the High Pop Professor is that there was something that happened in the late 80s, early 90s. People look back at that era and call it the junk wax era. That's what they call it. And most people would define it, I think, from the years of either 86 or 87 till about 92, 93. And so that span of years, 87 to 93, we call it, the junk wax era. And they call it junk wax because the production of those cards, they turned on the printers and never stopped them. And so there was so much product out there. Nothing was rare. Nothing was scarce. They printed it to the moon. And so, no one who has cards that came out during that time, none of those cards are really worth anything. Even rookie cards of the big players, big star players, not really worth much unless they're in like PSA Gem Mint 10 condition, in which case, okay.
PSA, Gen Mint.
Gem Mint, yeah.
Mint. Okay.
Yeah.
PSA means professional.
So it's a grading company, Professional Sports Authenticator is what they're actually called, but ironically, their biggest grading item right now is Pokemon cards, so not really a sport, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're the authoritative source.
Well, yes.
But that's
in a nutshell.
That's a debatable.
You can debate a lot of things about that, but a couple of things you cannot debate is that if you're looking to increase your card's value, that is the company you want to have grading your cards. A grade from them means more value-wise than a grade from anywhere else.
And what's your birth year, if you don't mind?
1985.
Okay, so are you millennial or are you Generation X?
I'm a millennial. My brother was born 82, and technically he's still a millennial as well, but he's about the oldest millennial you could have.
And your mother grew up in the Great Depression.
Grandmother, yeah.
Grandmother. Oh, okay. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah. My parents were both born in 55, so they're solid boomers. Yeah, solid boomers. And then we're both millennials, my brother and I.
If America were a collection, what are the pieces you hope never get thrown away?
Ooh. If America were a collection, what pieces do I hope never get thrown away? Ooh. Well, gosh, I would worry that some of those pieces are being discarded right now.
Tell me what some of the pieces are that you feel like have already been discarded.
Well, I mentioned a little bit about some of the common shared experiences that aren't really quite as common anymore. I think that there is a temptation to see things going poorly in our country, and I think there's a temptation to blame the country for it. And there's a temptation to do that first before asking how can we improve it or turn it around. And so
Yes.
I would hope that we could all sort of celebrate the American Trinity for what it is.
Tell me what the American Trinity is.
Oh, it's written on every coin. E pluribus unum, out of many one, liberty, and in God we trust.
In God we trust.
Right.
Is it called the American Trinity and I just didn't know that?
I don't know. I mean, I think of it as...
Refer to it as the American Trinity?
I think of it as that.
Wow. So I have a question here that I added that
Sure.
I emailed myself
Okay.
with questions.
Yeah.
But I made a note
Uh-huh.
that so the idea of 101 ideas is to take problems, recurring challenges, especially the problem of a failure of imagination that we experience here, and the foreseeable failure that we avoid or we don't actively preempt, right? And the recurring challenges, even in that, like, just the indivisibility of it all,
Yeah.
and the even thinking about the shared experience
Yeah.
and the specificity, and we bemoan it, right? But we don't talk about how to create, like you said, shared experience.
Right.
And what that would look, especially because really what we're talking about is the digital world. A lot of this is
A lot of times, that's
the
correct.
digital world. And so if you had a microphone or you had a higher ground pulpit where you could get above the word and you could speak to the rest of us where we would all hear,
Uh-huh.
what would your idea for America be? What would you be preaching, or what would you be shouting from the hilltops that we ought to do?
That's a great question.
and relate it to one of the aspects of the Trinity.
I mean, I'm not sure I have one unified message, but I think if we're trying to find one, to instill one more unified sort of populace, I think that there's a temptation to sort of roll our eyes when we get to these like 4th of July parades and things, but a lot of times it's that tradition and it's that shared experience there of I think that there's a danger that that technology and its advances, it likes to pretend that it unifies people, and it sometimes can, but I think that it also isolates, and it actually divides.
And when it unifies people, it's people unifying themselves using the internet, I find.
Yes, you could do that as a tool, but also you have to be careful because, you know, a lot of times the echo chambers will tend to others. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you might be tempted to unify with others who already think the way that you do, but then that creates more social rifts.
Yes.
So it's not. It's really doing the opposite. Even if they advertise it as being like, oh, join the social network, it'll bring us all together. It's like,
Tell me again what
say
the
that.
American Trinity is.
E pluribus unum, out of many one.
Out of many one.
Yeah.
Where does that appear on the coin?
I think I don't know.
Okay.
It's always on there. Some it's on the front, on some it's on the back.
Okay.
But it's on every coin. Liberty,
Liberty.
and in God we trust.
Define liberty, and then final question: define in God we trust, especially as a believer.
Sure. Liberty. I think of liberty as freedom. I think you're free. I mean, freedom to choose your way, freedom to live your life as you see fit. Freedom to do or not do the things you want to do, freedom to establish your priorities, freedom to spend your money how you want, freedom to be you.
And then harkening back to your wife who
Sure.
preached another killer sermon today. Killer sermon. She's on a roll. I recommend our church. She's on a roll.
She's good. She's good.
The spokesperson for Jesus, the representative piece of it all. How does one reconcile the freedom to be oneself with what, let's be honest, which is also a responsibility to make sure that being oneself does not keep others from having and experiencing those same freedoms.
Exactly. You're free to wave around your fist as much as you want until you start hitting people, right? And so, yeah, because we have free will, we have autonomy, and so it's our task to be the little Christs in the world and to make that correct choice to do the good and to be Christ's arms and hands, and to live that. No, the challenge is to carry. It is. Yeah, it is.
Like that.
Yeah.
Not even what in God we trust.
Well, as a yes.
Yeah.
Even still, it didn't really bother me to see that on the coin because I think that you look at the founding of the country and its its roots and how this was conceived of. I would at that point have viewed it as more historical, which is accurate.
The historical
technically. Sure.
You could define as faithful. I'm going to say men because they were men who were
Well,
like in the story.
At the time, look, that's how it was. And thankfully we've in ways since then, and we've enlightened. But again, we've taken what was there and we've improved upon it. Who's to say continue improving upon it?
Say we can.
Right.
Who's to say?
Right.
In fact, who's to say it's not literally our cross to bear as a nation?
That might
to
be
do that?
what our primary charge is at this moment. Is to do the hard things, say the hard thing, be a teller that this country needs.
And what are the shared truths that we can get behind?
Right.
And I think that's the difficult thing to arrive at.
It is. It is.
I think we think of shame as a country, and there are devastating people have done. I think make it difficult for these kids. I think for people to simply just embrace the truth of what we have learned
Yeah.
and the truth of what we really do know. whether or not we're acting.
Country really needs a bit of that sort of justice.
Without calling
Without well,
Because I would say
because the name is a hot button, right? Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, there are. That's right.
And I think that's what has a lot of people silent.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So
Right.
that shared experience and shared language, it is a right.
Agreed.
Thank you for spending this time. I
No problem
appreciate
at all.
it, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
And it was
Thanks, Pat.
broadcasted on July 4th for the 24-hour live stream. 101 Ideas for America. See you there.
Very cool.
Thank you. Okay.
Penny Wrenn Media. Ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, ba-bum, bum, ba-bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Send it to ba-bum, ba-bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sunny, nanny, nanny, here. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn Media. Ba-bum, 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 bum, ba-bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Send it to ba-bum, ba-bum. Penny Wrenn Media. Sunny, nanny.
Okay. I'm still. I ate a hard-boiled egg. I still have lag on my device, so I'm going to. I'm listening to
Penny
it
Wrenn
again.
Media.
I
Ba-bum,
really
ba-bum,
enjoy
bum,
doing it.
ba-bum, bum, ba-bum. Penny Wrenn
So what I'm gonna
Media.
do
Send
is,
it to ba-bum, ba-bum. Penny
I
Wrenn
really appreciated
Media.
that he went
Sunny,
through
nanny,
with
nanny,
just
here.
values,
Penny Wrenn Media. Penny
for-
Wrenn Media. Penny Wrenn
and finding
Media.
a way to.
Penny Wrenn Media.
Yeah, to pass along our shared values as as an inheritance, that is exceptionally important to me, and I want to be a part of normalizing that conversation around our cultural inheritance. People keep talking about. I don't know. There was one week when I was listening to different shows or different commentary, and the person being interviewed, or whoever the talking head was said something to the effect of, and we do need to have a national conversation about that, like this idea of what we need to have a national conversation about as the American people. And it's not like we have a forum. There's not a Robert's Rules of Order for national conversations. And when I'm hearing it come up, it seems like it's always a discussion of, again, what America should be, and not so much about what America is or has been. Because the national conversation, I think, about what America has been, I think we've proven that the grown-ups in the room have not agreed on the exact right script. But they aren't going to be the grown-ups in the room forever, the only grown-ups in the room. Gen Z is among the grown-ups in the room, but they're not completely at the helm of national spokespersonship, if you will, right? That would cement their take. And they're really prone to agitation because And I believe that that's less about a character trait and more about they don't have a lot of material to work with. And, Gen Alpha and Beta, I think for sure, they might not even be actively searching for language of our shared cultural inheritance, but we ought to raise them. We ought to teach them to do so. Um, the Bible says, teach a child the way that they should go, and they'll never depart from it. And there is Christian inheritance in our national affect, like our personal effects here, that there is Christianity is a part of it. And to the degree that we aren't a religious state, so to speak, there still has to be, well, the church. Actually, let's take that out. So I do want to, before we go, go through the 101 ideas, the deck presentation. I'm going to do a speed read, similar to what I did during the 24-hour live stream. And if you've tried to look at the live stream, it is not available on YouTube. Unfortunately, I didn't know that if you stream for longer than 12 hours, your stream is likely not going to be saved or captured or archived by YouTube. Like, you will be able to continue to stream, but it won't be captured or archived by YouTube. So next time I will know to stop at 11 hours and 59 minutes, right? Okay. All right, so here we go. 101 Ideas for America. This list is divided into 8 sections. The 8 sections are lists of 10 or 20. So section for the first part is 10 ways hope refuses to stay theoretical. 2, 10 New York Times stories that point toward America's next chapter. 3, 10 Up First questions worth asking before 9 a.m. Remember, Up First is the NPR podcast that I listen to every morning. 4, 10 Ezra Klein conversations America should have with itself. 5, 20 ways patriotism gets an internet upgrade. 6, 20 things nobody tells you about midlife. 7, 10 Oprah questions that change the conversation. 8, 10 people America should learn from before it copies them. And I know that you can't see me. And you know what? Part of me is like, and that's going to have to be okay. That is going to have to be okay. All right. Idea number 1. Remember, this is 10 ways hope refuses to stay theoretical. 1, hope is not a feeling. It is a design choice. 2, every dream eventually reaches the point where it must become a plan. And these ideas, the reason so this was the live stream deck. I like to say that when activating the 101 ideas premise, I typically use a lot of different devices. For the live stream, the device was ways that you can think, things that you can do, approaches that, any American can consider. And these reconsiderations, if you will, help to cultivate a more imaginative consciousness in this cultural inheritance vibe, right? That I'm that I believe can make a difference in how we live today for tomorrow, and for the tomorrow version of the United States of America. Again, thinking about that hashtag America 250 to America 500. Again, TO America 500. So, number 2, every dream eventually reaches the point where it must become a plan, if not a blueprint. Number 3, the New Deal proved America can build itself twice, and whether or not you agree with the New Deal is beside the point. It is proof positive that we are a nation that systematizes, that can systematize socioeconomic outcomes. Idea 4, churches were America's first social networks, and they still remember how to network, even if they don't have all of the people inputs that are necessary to create that vast network that we have relied on for churches in our human rights movements. Idea 5, again, this is in hope. Physical public works deserve a digital equivalent. Patriotism begins wherever someone decides to make something useful. Medicine heals bodies. Messages heal civilizations. Wellness is personal. Well-being is communal. America has never lacked vision. It has lacked organized follow-through. Hope maketh not ashamed, because useful work leaves evidence. That's the last of what I call the hope list. Next list, 10 New York Times stories that point towards America's next chapter. These are not the stories themselves, FYI. 11, this constitutes idea number 11. America's 250th birthday should be treated like a product launch, not a parade. Every headline deserves a systems diagram before it deserves an opinion. Institutions rarely fail overnight. They decay by incentives. That is the Jeffrey Epstein episode of The Daily. America's 250th birthday should be treated like a product launch. That's for their America 250 episode. The every headline deserves a systems diagram before it deserves an opinion. That is the October 7th episode about The Daily. The daily episode about October 7th. Most breaking news is actually slow news finally becoming visible. The local story usually predicts the national one. Data tells you what happened. Context tells you what matters. Journalism's highest purpose is not outrage, it is orientation. Democracy needs fewer hot takes and more field reports. The country's biggest challenges are coordination failures disguised as ideological ones. The next American Renaissance will be documented before it is recognized. And not even going as far as America 500, thinking about what kind of America we want to be, even in 2050, which is not that long from now, if you think about it. Okay. 10 Up First questions worth asking before 9 a.m. This is the NPR podcast Up First that I listen to before 9 a.m. every morning. What actually changed overnight? Who benefits if today's story is misunderstood? What problem is hiding behind today's headline? Which numbers deserve more attention than the pull quote? What happened quietly while everyone watched something louder? Is this trend structural or temporary? Which institution is quietly being redesigned? Which technology is changing behavior before policy catches up? What would this story look like from a county instead of a capital? What deserves tomorrow's attention before it becomes tomorrow's crisis? And then, of course, Ezra Klein, 10 Ezra Klein conversations America should have with itself. These are ideas 31 through 40. Every culture runs on operating assumptions. Complexity is not the enemy. Pretending complexity doesn't exist is. Incentives usually beat intentions. The future belongs to people who can hold two competing truths at once. True story. Every policy is also a user experience. Institutions are interfaces between strangers. Polarization rewards certainty more than curiosity. The best questions outlive the loudest answers. Progress requires better maps, not bigger megaphones. Thinking is public infrastructure. Frederick Douglass quote, "Power concedes nothing without a demand." What are our demands? Ideally, I would like the 101 Ideas for America to evolve into 101 ideas that demands, but that are articulated as ideas. But with them, there is an explicit or implicit demand. 20 ways patriotism gets an internet upgrade. Stop consuming America, start contributing to it. Patriotism is becoming open source. Every citizen should own a civic portfolio. Local problems deserve global grade software. True story. Every zip code deserves a digital public square worth visiting. Build tools before movements. Search is replacing geography as the front door to government. Civic trust is becoming measurable. True. AI is creating a new class of public works. Every American should leave behind useful digital infrastructure. I so believe that. The next interstate highway system will be information, which is literally what the internet was called, the information highway. Public service should be as shareable as social media. Communities need repositories, not just rallies. America needs APIs as much as asphalt. APIs are application processing inputs or something like that. It's what allows different applications to work together. Patriotism 3.0 rewards builders over broadcasters. And I'm broadcasting right now. Interesting. Digital literacy is national security. Your search history is becoming your civic biography. And there is some Supreme Court news and data privacy precedent announcement that is advancing the idea of our internet data as being more like personal effects, and that would mean like property. And as a result, there, I think, is going to be room for recontextualizing and renegotiating the terms of platforms with user-generated content and how our internet behavior is counted, measured, and sold. The best platforms increase agency instead of engagement. Every citizen is now a publisher. The republic is only as intelligent as the information systems that sustain it. Quick poll. What matters most to you right now? Education, healthcare, jobs and economy, democracy. For me, that is jobs and economy. It says to drop your answers in the chat, but there is not a chat live for this live stream. Why? Because I used predetermined settings that said safe for kids, and I think chats are automatically disabled for safe for kids content. 20 things nobody tells you about midlife that also reveals something about America, should be in parentheses. America is entering midlife too. 40 is no longer the beginning of decline, it is the beginning of leverage. Your longitudinal data may become your greatest asset. Experience compounds faster than money. Midlife is the widest spectrum of adulthood. You can be raising toddlers and bearing parents in the same decade. Peak earning years demand peak discernment. Networks begin outperforming resumes. Reinvention gets cheaper after 40. Career pivots become strategic instead of desperate. The C to B economy, that's a term that I have been running with, and I haven't searched it to see what exists currently, but the C is consumer to business. Right now, the term B to C and B to B are common, but I believe that in order for us to reignite the American landscape with socioeconomic mobility, that we're going to need to have a more of a marketplace from which businesses can purchase from us directly. Secret sauce as a service may become the next consulting industry. That means productizing your secret sauce over or using AI, and so at scale, so that you can become more of an enterprise player in your industry. 22nd century startups will increasingly be founded by people over 40, and I'm very, very bullish about we've got to start talking in 22nd century terms. Wisdom scales better than hustle. Dreamers become operators. Operators become mentors. Mentors become institutions. Midlife is where identity becomes infrastructure. Your second half deserves a better operating system than your first. Longevity is a product strategy. 10 Oprah questions that change the conversation. Ideas 81 to 90. What happened to you is only half the story. What did you build because it happened? Healing without usefulness remains unfinished. Your calling usually arrives disguised as inconvenience. The most important room is the one where someone finally feels seen. Gratitude without responsibility becomes performance. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is refusing to outsource your future. Every breakthrough begins with better language. Purpose scales farther than ambition. The life you save may begin with the questions you ask. And last, 10 people America should learn from before it copies them. Frederick Douglass understood that literacy is infrastructure. Oprah turned attention into institution building. Kris Jenner proved intellectual property starts at the dinner table. Believe that, love that. Henrietta Lacks reminds us your data can outlive your body. Steve Jobs sold simplicity, not technology. Dolly Parton monetized generosity without diminishing it. I'm not sure about that. Mr. Rogers demonstrated that gentleness is a form of leadership. Christopher Rufo showed that language shapes policy before legislation does. The Onion proved satire often predicts reality faster than journalism. And every notable life is really a repeatable system hiding inside a story. That's 100. Then idea number 101 is from cotton to content, context is everything. America's next competitive advantage will not be what we produce. It will be how we connect history, technology, memory, markets, and meaning into systems that leave the country stronger than we found it. So thank you for joining me today at Penny Wrenn Media. And for hustling through the 101 Ideas for America, checking out the great interview with Brian Mazur again, and I will be back soon.
Hope everlasting when my strength is gone. Hands still shaking, but you hold them in your palm. Love everlasting running through my veins, and In every failure you keep calling out my name. God everlasting, love everlasting, everlasting. All in one, all in one. In my lungs, beat of my drum. Hope everlasting, you are one. You are one.